You are listening to Ordinary Eccentrics. I'm Courtney Lofton, and together we'll uncover the extraordinary lives of ordinary people. Let's hop into it. Okay, first I'll have you introduce yourself, just starting with your first and last name.
Okay. Hi, my name is Nichole Khalil.
And Nichole, where were you born and raised?
So I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and I currently
Oh,
still live here. So yeah.
awesome. What was it like growing up in Los Angeles?
So technically I mean I grew up in Los Angeles County, obviously, but I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in the San Fernando Valley, so very suburban,
Mm-hmm.
kind of on the quieter side of Los Angeles. Um, it was quiet. It was okay. The valley is pretty calm compared to actual LA.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was okay growing up in that part of the city.
Growing up, was it like, especially growing up close to LA? Like, I'm from a small town in the Midwest, and I feel like
Mhm.
everyone always imagines LA as like, where you go to get famous, like all these things. Like, for you growing up so close, would you say it was the same for like you and like even other kids in school with you, or was it more like less jaded because you could see it for what it is, or more jaded because you're like, oh, we're basically living here?
Yeah, I think growing up at the time, I wouldn't say sheltered, but in
Hmm.
a sense I was. So I never really made it out to like the actual like Hollywood or like West Hollywood
Hmm.
or Beverly Hills. Growing up we really did stay pretty close to the valley and so I mean, I worked at my first job ever was Chick-fil-A. So I did see famous people kind of come through in and out and so it was just
That's
as
awesome.
shocking, I think, for us as it would be for anyone who wasn't from LA.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's changed as I've gotten older and now, I live more in the city, so it's a little bit different, but back then it was still just as like, "Oh my gosh, there's a celebrity. This is crazy," you know?
Hmm. No,
Yes.
yeah, that I can only imagine. So are you like someone that went to the beach, or like not like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so we did go to the beach growing up. It was a mission to get over
Yeah.
to the beach. I'm sure I don't know if you've been to LA or know anything about the traffic from the valley. It is a
Yeah.
nightmare. Like you have to plan it out, at least like plan out, okay, we have to leave at this time in order for us not to
Mhm.
hit traffic and on the way back. So we did go. I would say not as much as I feel like some of my friends did, but we definitely did go to the beach. Yeah.
That's cool. So I lived in Malibu because I went to Pepperdine. So I lived there
Okay.
for 9 months just before COVID, and, like, one of
Yeah.
the things that I did the most was just literally just drive around, and so
Yeah.
I like, one of my rides, I'd take, I'm not gonna remember, it wasn't Malibu Canyon Road, but the other one, like,
Piece
I can't remember,
Canaan, yeah.
to, like, the top of Topanga, and then I'd
Yep.
come down into Encino, and
Mhm.
there's this I'd get, like, Starbucks or whatever, and then I'd come back and I would just do a loop of the canyon roads
Yeah.
and PCH and, like, down into that area. So I'm somewhat familiar with that area, but
Mhm.
only in, like, a sense of, like, I was just driving and, like, stopping and getting food.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so beautiful. It's actually funny that you say that. My dad used to work at Pepperdine, so I spent a lot of
Oh,
time there
cool.
growing up, so that's so funny.
Yeah, small world.
I know, that's crazy.
One of the most beautiful campuses in the world, I think. It's, like,
Yes. Amazing.
every time I look up about it, yeah. Okay, so tell me more about what you were like growing up. Like, what I think one of the interesting things I've learned is like what we are interested in at 10 years old kind of
If
ends up becoming like attached with our purpose. So if you can remember, like what were you into like in those preteen years?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I was a very, like, wild kid, like, just always got in trouble for talking in class, just very eccentric. I
Mhm.
used to, like, put on shows for my parents and my family and, like, thought I was gonna be an actress. I also really loved makeup, when I was younger, and,
Mhm.
like, that was my favorite thing. My mom would buy me, like, makeup kits for Christmas and hair stuff and all of that, and that
Mhm.
actually did play out into my adult life because I'm a makeup artist and a hairstylist right now.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
yeah, so I
I
think
feel
that it's
like wait,
yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah,
Ah,
I can hear you.
okay. Um, I feel like MUA, like makeup artist, hairstylist, has gotten so much attention with social media, and like people are really like I watch makeup tutorials, and like I
Mhm.
never do my makeup like that, but I just find it so interesting and like mesmerizing.
Yeah,
So
I
what
agree.
yeah, what is it you think that that is so that people just gravitate to makeup and hair even just for entertainment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that personally for me, I just think it's so cool that you can like transform the way that you look in so many
Mhm.
different ways and like use it as like a tool to enhance your beauty or to look completely different. And like you said, it's mesmerizing. And like you watch these videos and you're like, I may never do that to myself, but it's so cool to see, the before and the after. And it's just, I think it's such a beautiful, like artsy thing that people get
Yeah.
into, and it's just fun. Um, and I think as women too, it's like such a fun thing for us to like have for ourselves. Like we get to play with this stuff all the time. We get to make ourselves feel better and look cute
Yeah.
and all of that. So I think that that's what it is. And I think too this generation is so into trends and like what's trending, what's the new thing, what's the new product. And
Mhm.
so I feel like that has really been influenced by social media as well.
I love what you said about seeing the transformation because I
Yeah,
think that is one thing that calls me. I love to see a before and after.
right? It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Like, even if it's like someone's weight loss journey or someone like getting sober, like the before and after, I will look at like those pictures or those videos all day long.
Totally. I am 100% the same way. I was just doing that before I got on this call.
Okay, are you on TikTok?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay. So, what are your thoughts? This is another recent thing I've seen on TikTok where like the argument is makeup. Like, I don't need to wear makeup. Makeup. It's like some audio of a girl like saying she like doesn't like makeup and like makeup ruins women or like makes them insecure. But
Mhm.
I always feel better when I put makeup on, and I don't think it's because like I feel like I have to. I just feel like I'm enhancing my natural beauty, my features. Like I have acne spots I want to cover up. It just feels
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So, what do you think about this new age argument of like makeup is like the patriarchy's for way of controlling women?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you in a sense, like, because I work in the industry and I grew up,
Mhm.
like, playing with makeup since I was young, I feel like there's 2 sides to it, right? Like, you should be able to love yourself fully without having any makeup on, right? Because at the end of
Right.
the day, that's who you are. And if you're not happy with who you are without all the fluff, then you got to look deeper, right?
Right.
But I am all for empowering and like other women. And if women feel beautiful with makeup on, like same with me, like I have makeup scars, I have discoloration, I'm Egyptian, I have really dark under eyes. So those are things like when I put on makeup, it makes me feel beautiful, and not that I don't think I'm beautiful without it,
Mhm.
it enhances my confidence and makes me feel good. So,
Mhm.
I think that TikTok I mean, there's so much going around on TikTok, and I just feel like everyone wants to input their own opinions, and then, you know, it puts people on these trends, and it's just, like, so much information being put out there, and at the end of the day, I'm just like, "Do whatever the hell you wanna do." Like, it's not
Yeah.
that serious, you know? So, that's my
Everyone wants to be controversial on TikTok.
Of course, everyone wants to fight
Yeah.
about something. I'm like, "Ugh, go read a book or something."
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, this is a really random question, but I want to talk about like the self-love journey and like self-acceptance regardless of exterior. It's like the interior work. But this is a really random aside. Um like, do you think the future of makeup will get into a place where people are completely like I've seen like so many different colors
Mhm,
introduced now. People are
mhm.
like doing blue eyebrows and like pink lashes, like, do you see that getting more extreme with the younger generations growing up?
Yeah, you know what? I it's interesting because I have also noticed that too. And I think it could. I really do think it could. Just because I feel like this like Gen Z, the younger generation,
Mhm.
is very just they're just expressing themselves however they want and they don't really care.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that they're trying to go against the norm and just like kind of do whatever feels good. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how long it'll stick, you know what I mean? Just because I think that
Right.
trends do come and go so often, and then we recycle trends, and, the 2000s are coming back and all of that, so it's interesting to see, but I do think that people are just kind of in this state of, like, "I don't really care, I'm gonna do what I want and what feels good." So, if colors make me feel that way, I think that that is going to continue.
Yeah. I see some videos or because like, people are like, I'm dyeing my hair purple, I'm dyeing my hair blue. But are people gonna start wearing purple foundation and
My
blue
god.
concealer? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. See, I've has that been a thing? Like, is that a thing? Am I missing
I
something?
see people doing their makeup, but it's like they'll like they'll do like a whole blue look and it'll be like this wild alien look. And then I think also part of it is taking it off. Like people like to watch like the taking it off. But
Okay.
I'm like, are
I
people going out in public like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, is this like do they do it just for like a cool makeup look to practice, or are they going out in public
Yeah.
like
I think right
that?
now it's just a cool makeup look, but I can imagine like other generations being like, we don't conform to looking like humans, so we want to just have like whatever color face we want.
Oh, for sure. I feel like honestly, like there's nothing that like goes out the window at this point.
I
So,
know.
yeah, I don't know. I could see that too, but I did not know about that. So that's very interesting. I'm going to keep I bet you anything I'm going to get TikTok videos of that now.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, the algorithm's always listening.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Okay, so that's my random question that has nothing to do with anything. But
Okay.
we were talking about like being confident no matter what. And like if you're confident without makeup and you put makeup on and it makes you feel confident or more confident, good on you. But
Yeah.
with if you're feeling insecure and you're hiding it under makeup, okay, tell me about your journey with
Yeah.
self-love, self-acceptance.
Yeah, so that's a tough one. I think that I've always really struggled with makeup, and I think I got into the industry, I started wearing makeup at a really young age,
Mhm.
and I was very insecure growing up, and I was always kind of just the not so cute friend, and all my friends got hit on, and I was just kind of the one that was like the ugly friend. And so, a lot of insecurities, you know, manifested into my life, and I started to believe those things about myself. Um, and,
Mm,
I wear a full face of makeup every single day. I work at a salon. I'm around, the beauty industry. They want you to look a
mhm.
certain way because, you want people that
Yeah,
look a certain way to do your hair and to do your makeup, right?
great.
Um, so that's been really difficult, I will say. It wasn't until I would say this year, and even just starting, the Jay Shetty program and really doing the inner work for myself that I really started to learn to like love myself for who I am. And, some days are harder. I used to be that person that would look in the mirror and just, without makeup and be like, you're ugly. Like no one's ever gonna like you when you look like this, and just say really mean and
Mhm,
hurtful things to myself. Um,
mhm,
but over the last 6 months, I would say a little bit longer, I've really been practicing, like, saying nicer things to myself in the mirror, and even just if I don't have anything nice to say, just not really like, if a thought comes up, I just kind of stop that thought and just, even
mhm,
if I'm not saying it out loud, I try to reframe it into something positive. Um, and it's funny that you ask me this right now because I went on a hike this morning and I put on just a little concealer and that was pretty much it. And I've been trying to document like moments in my life a little bit more. And I took a
mhm.
picture of myself. And I was like, wow, like I actually feel like I look beautiful. Like I look great just as I would if I had a full face of makeup on. And that was a really interesting moment for me. And I was thinking about like posting that picture. I haven't yet, but
Mhm.
I I feel like today was like one of the first days and so like the last few weeks too, but just really like learning to accept my beauty and my body and just who I am for myself, whether or not it's approved by other people. But
Yeah.
it has been a really, really long, hard journey with that, I would say.
I love that that realization came to you on a hike because
Yeah,
I feel like being in nature changes my perception of myself and just kind of grounds your energy and kind of it takes away all of the external
yeah.
like vibrations and stuff that can come.
Yeah, it's really crazy what like nature and just like even like animals, insects, like all of that. Like it's
Yeah.
so because I used to be so scared of I was telling my friend on the hike today, I was like, I used to be so scared of bugs and like butterflies and like a ladybug fell on my head the other day when I went to the beach on Thanksgiving. And instead of like freaking out, I picked it up and I took it as like a good sign and like
Yes.
it's just yeah, it's just there's so much beauty in the world and in nature and like when you're able to like be one with that, I feel like you're able to be one with yourself in a sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Totally. And I used to wear makeup every single day from junior high through high school, and I
Mm.
stopped when I got to college, but it's like it does become a part of your routine. Like you wake up, you have a cup of coffee, you like have your breakfast. You're like I could do my makeup in my sleep with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
So I relate to being unfamiliar with the unmade up self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
what
tough.
yeah. Yeah. Because you get used to something and then it's like, wait, is that me? Like where
Yeah.
am I?
Yeah. Seriously,
When
it's
when do
crazy.
you feel most like yourself?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I think I feel most like myself when I'm like with my close friends who like I've known for a really long time and I just feel like I can be truly like authentically me. Um
Mhm.
and I would say too like when I'm home in like my safe place and I don't have makeup on and I'm just like doing things that make me feel good, like journaling or, meditating or going on hikes and spending time in nature. Like those are moments where I feel like my most authentic self.
Mhm.
Yeah. And also like when I'm able to be a good friend to people or even just random people, like helping people makes me feel like I'm living like my purpose and I'm being true to who I am.
Yes. What is your relationship with being perceived?
Ooh, that's tough. Um, that's a hard one. I feel like I've also really struggled with that as well. And I think I'm on this journey right now of really trying to figure out who Nicole is and like
Mhm.
who like my identity is like to the core. And that um I'm into astrology as well. And so I had
Okay.
gotten a birth chart reading done and the astrologer was talking to me about how like I have so many different identities, and I'm
Mm.
constantly putting myself in different identities to please everyone around me, and so I think that I really struggle sometimes with how I'm being perceived, but through being present with myself and reflecting on the moments where, something triggers me or I'm feeling a certain way or, I'm reacting to
Mhm.
something, I really have to take a step back and ask myself like what is it about this that is like making me feel this way, like why do I care about what this person is thinking or saying or and
Mhm.
it just reflecting and being present with myself has really allowed me to just at least try to be my most authentic self in every room that I walk in.
Yes, I love that, and I feel like so many people can relate to that and experience that, like, the, like, tension of, "What is this person thinking of me?" Or even if they aren't thinking about us at all, like, feeling like we're being judged or like we're, like, having to put that mask on or that
Yeah.
identity on to, like, get just to exist in public and be perceived.
Yeah.
Can you share any more details about kind of like what goes on in your mind when you're having those moments and kind of more about how you get out of them?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of like so it's obviously a lot of insecurity. It's like, I like I said before, I was pretty insecure. I was growing up, I was made fun of a lot and like I said earlier, I'm Egyptian. Me and my sister are first generation Americans and
Mm,
growing up, we were bullied a lot and made fun of, for being hairy or for being, for having curly, frizzy hair and,
mm,
bringing food to school that didn't smell like other people's food. And so I carried a lot of those things that, were
mhm,
said or were done to me into my adult life. And so sometimes like if I'm walking into a room or like I see someone looking at me or making a face or whatever, it's like, oh my gosh, like what are they saying? Do they think do they think I'm not pretty? Do they think I'm like, I don't know, like, are they saying bad things about me? Am I stupid? Am I
mhm,
ugly? Like, what is it, And so in those moments, I tend to just tell myself that, like, first of all, first and foremost, I'm like, they're not talking about you. Not everything's about you.
yeah,
I'm like, humble yourself real quick.
yeah,
Um, but sometimes when it really does feel like it, I'm like, you know who you are, you know your worth, you know your value. Um, Other people's perception of you is just their perception of you. And it's like those affirmations that really help me get through those moments in the day. And even in bigger situations or traumatic situations, I just have to reassure myself of those
mhm.
things. That really does help my anxiety and help me kind of get out of that negative space.
Yes. Do you I feel like the developmental years having to experience that, it's almost gets ingrained into your subconscious of like having to protect yourself from people making fun of you or people talking about you and just like develop that thick skin.
Yeah.
Do you, how do you cope with being vulnerable now?
So that's also a tough one. I think that growing up and experiencing, I mean, some kids, I will say this because it was what it was, and
Mhm.
it was like some kids were being racist, and some kids were just being judgmental, and there were I've experienced different things, and so it it really created this guard. Like I built this like huge wall up, and I became really angry.
Mhm.
When I was a kid and growing up, and I was very quick to like lash out and just very defensive and would never let people see my vulnerable side or my emotional side. And it's been through years of therapy and doing the self work on myself that I've allowed myself to become more vulnerable. And even like on social media, like everyone's posting because they want a reaction, right? Like they want a reaction of
Mhm.
some sort, they want someone to notice them or whatever it is. And I would always post what I thought people wanted to see and what looked good. And
Right.
it wasn't until maybe like I would say like last year, it's been almost 2 years now where I'm just posting what feels good and I'm just like this is who I am. Like I'm being real. I'm going through things. I'm working on myself. I like to have fun.
Mhm.
Like it's really taken me a long time to show that. I still think that, it's hard for me to be vulnerable one on one with people and like tell them when I'm going through something and ask for help and
Mhm.
share that because it's scary. I think, you don't want someone to use that against you, but I think that through the self healing process that I've been doing, it's been really helpful and allowed me to really just open up in that way.
Yeah. No, I get that. It's like you have to feel safe first and
Yeah.
safe within yourself, and that takes a lot of work and to even realize like when there is the external reasons for like feeling insecure and feeling unsafe, then it's like you also like that next level of trust that you have to develop for people, especially new people coming into your life. I'm curious, were you able to talk about this with your parents or did they understand at all like your
So
experience
no, I
given
I
that
have a
like you're
pretty
first generation here, so obviously they weren't going to
complicated
American high
relationship
schools,
with my
like
parents.
how did and you had a sister, so how okay.
Wait, sorry,
Tell
you're
me
breaking.
more about that.
Yeah, so
Oh,
um No, 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 I think I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it was a pretty complicated relationship with my parents. They're married, they're still together. It's just me and my sister and them, and we my dad had a heart attack when I was in the 5th grade, and after that, he completely changed. He became very angry, very verbally abusive, like physically abusive. It was really tough living, just growing up with our parents. Like,
Mhm,
not only was it the physical abuse, but it was the verbal abuse that became so intense that, like, there were just really hard moments where, we didn't want to be there and my parents threatened to leave. And um I remember them always telling us, like, you are not allowed to speak about what happens in this house with anyone else. And
mm,
so they weren't emotionally there for us. And so and then me and my sister too, like, we were going through similar things and being abused, both physically and emotionally. And so we I think we both shut down and we didn't really talk to each other about it either. We ended up, you know, experiencing life very, very differently. We're close now, but it's just it we didn't neither of us had anyone to talk to about any
mhm.
of this stuff. And so it was really hard. Yeah, I felt like I really never had anyone to talk to. And I think that plays into my life now with, being vulnerable and feeling safe enough to open up and talk to people. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. How were you able then to get into therapy and after
Yeah.
recently, yeah, what got you to seek out therapy?
So I originally had first started therapy in 2000. It was either 2018 or 2019, like the end of 2018. Um,
Mhm,
I was really against therapy. And a pretty big, like, traumatic thing happened in my life. And in 2018, I was sexually abused and or sexually assaulted, I would say.
mhm,
And that was kind of, I was really against therapy still until I had multiple friends, telling me, like, Nicole, you should really go to therapy. Like, I think it would help you. And I was at just a point of, like, rock bottom. And
mhm,
when I finally found a therapist and reached out, and that that was the start of my journey with therapy.
mm. And what did you, I guess, uncover in that in therapy in that during that time?
Yeah, I mean, there were I grew up, I would say, in a pretty, like, traumatic household and environment. And
Mhm,
going off to college, and I experienced so many different things. And it was like it was weird, I would say, for me, and it felt uncomfortable, like, finally being able to talk about things with someone when I felt like I never could or never was allowed to. So
mhm,
it was definitely uncomfortable, I would say. But I learned a lot about myself and my parents. I've forgiven them for a lot of the things that they've done. And I've learned to just not hold any resentment because it's doing more harm to myself than it is anyone else. And um I would say, in regards to my parents, one of the main things that I've learned is that they were doing the best that they could at the time with what they
mhm,
knew. And they're immigrants. They came to this country, like, trying to create a better life for their kids. And I respect them so much for that. And I don't hold any grudges against them. And I can't even imagine how challenging it could have been.
right.
But yeah, at that time, it just felt like I finally had, like, an outlet after, like, I don't know, 20 something years of not being able to talk about anything that was bottled up inside.
Yes. Yes. No, I relate to that. I didn't go to therapy until much later in life, and it was triggered by being in a bad relationship because we like reflect our childhood traumas through our relationships, and then I was like, I can't, like, literally rock bottom, breaking point, couldn't keep going.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for someone Like, do you think it takes hitting rock bottom to reach out for help, or do you think like there were times where you could have um, started therapy, or like what advice would you give for someone who may be experiencing something similar, where they've had a childhood that was abusive, they're kind of on their own figuring things out and want to
Yeah.
feel better?
Yeah, I guess, some advice that I would probably give someone who's experiencing similar things would be, like, that you're not alone and that there are people out there who care and, who, join this profession because they care about people and they wanna help, and you don't have to suffer alone. Like, all this
Hmm.
baggage that you're carrying doesn't have to be just on you. You can, you're allowed to go and speak on it. You have the freedom and the space to do that if you really want to. And I would really just encourage people to seek out help if they need it. Like, we're humans and we're put on this earth
Hmm.
for human connection. And I think if I would have known that it was okay when I was younger, I would have done it, in a
Hmm.
heartbeat. So I would definitely recommend anyone who's ever thought about going to therapy or just someone to talk to. And I know that there's stigmas behind it and like, oh, if I go to therapy, something must be wrong with me.
Hmm.
And that's not the case. There's nothing, wrong with anyone. It's just that we have emotions and we all go through pain and suffering and tons of traumatic things in our lives. And it's just really important to lean on the people that can support you.
Right. How did therapy change your coping?
Yeah. Like I said before, I was really angry. Like, I was just such an angry person. And I turned to drugs and alcohol for a lot of my coping. When I got
Hmm.
back from I would say when I left for college, it was like downhill. It was like just partying and drinking and all of that, um,
Yeah.
pretty much up until like last year, I would say, where I used recreational drugs and I drank a lot, more to escape, I would say, and to cope with
Hmm.
things and to not feel because, when you're drinking and you're doing fun drugs, it's like you don't think about any of the stuff
Right.
until it all hits again. And so I would say that even though I was in therapy in 2018, up until it's been on and off, for the last few years, but
Hmm.
even though I started back then, I was still using, you know, those coping mechanisms to help me get through my traumas and,
Hmm.
uh, but I did learn I feel like it wasn't until, like, this last year of just really learning that, there's so many other coping mechanisms and tools that you can use, and journaling has been really great for me and,
Yeah.
affirmations and, there's so many different tools that help you, and I just realized that, I don't wanna feel like shit every day. I don't want to
Yeah.
feel like I need a crutch, like I need any of those things to make me feel good, and also I just learned to I have tattooed on my leg. I don't know if you've read the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It's a great
Oh, I
book,
know
but
it. Yeah, I know the book. I haven't read it, but I do know.
it's really good. But I read that book and she says in the book to feel it all. There's a chapter about that.
Mm.
And I have that tattooed on me and when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to feel. Like I wasn't allowed to feel any kind of emotion. And so
Mhm.
that is just a huge reminder to just sit with my pain and learn to lean into it and feel every emotion that comes up and just let it happen and allow myself to cry it out if I need to, or be angry and scream or whatever it is. But I think all of those things have really helped me with coping with any big traumatic thing that happens in my life.
Yes. Did you think, or did you realize at the time that partying was a coping mechanism, or did that come through reflection?
No, that definitely came through reflection. I would say there was no realization of that when I was in college and even the few years after when I first moved back to LA.
Mhm.
Um, it was just party, 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 whatever. And then I would say 2018, when I was sexually assaulted, Then I think it became more heavily like more drugs, more partying.
Mhm.
And it was almost like a state of numbing, and it was like every year
Mm.
since then, something big and traumatic has happened, and, um, I remember my sister told me one time we had a moment where we talked about stuff, and she was we had a real moment, and she was like, "Nicole, like, I was scared every single day that I was gonna get a call that you were dead." And
Mm.
that, like, broke my heart, and, I don't think it was until probably, like 2021 that I really realized that, like, okay, this is definitely I'm trying to use this to cope with all the trauma that I've
Right.
been through. Yeah.
So, obviously, we've connected through the Jay Shetty Coaching School.
Yeah.
What brought you into life coaching? Was it therapy, or did you have a life coach before this?
Yeah, so I've been in therapy. I have, a friend. I actually used to go to church when I was younger. I don't anymore,
Mm.
but at the time, I had my friend who was she was the youth pastor. Her and her husband were the youth pastor, and we have stayed in really close contact. She is not a pastor anymore. She's more kind of on the side of like holistic psychology. She like makes TikToks about, the brain and like how traumas are stored in our body, stuff like that. So anytime I had a problem, like I would really go to her and she would be the person that would like talk me through it. And she's a life coach. And so that was always like very intriguing to me. And I've always thought about it. I'm like, oh, I really love helping people. And I got really into just reading books about psychology and the brain and just
Mhm.
anything that was related to that. And I got to a point this summer where, it started last year where I was like, I am tired of partying. Like, I'm tired of doing it. But like, I just couldn't seem to get out of it. Like,
Mhm.
I want to go out with friends, for a fun night and for birthdays and, special occasion, but I don't want to make this my lifestyle. And I just felt like I kept hitting a roadblock, and, like, I
Mhm.
felt like my life was just kind of falling apart, and I was like, "There has to be more than this." Like, I felt like I had hit rock bottom all over again this summer, but nothing big and crazy and traumatic really happened this summer. It was more of just, like, I was like, "I need to change. Like, I can't keep doing this. I'm
Mhm.
tired of doing this," you know?
Yeah. No, I relate to that a lot. When I still drink and go out, but I stopped like really like seeking a night out, and
Yeah.
reached a point when I was like I'd be out with friends and I'd look around and I just be like I'm so bored. It's like a broken record over
Yeah,
and over and over. Like the DJ comes
seriously.
out, the smoke goes on, like have a drink, have a shot, and it's just like oh, like I've seen this movie before, but
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
hard to change the pattern.
Yeah. It's so difficult. I'm one of those people that, like, always says I wanna do something, but never actually do it, and yeah, when I signed up for the Jay Shetty program, it was the first time in my life that, like, I committed to something and completely paid for it myself and, like, told myself, like, "You have to do this for yourself," and
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy, like, I'm proud of myself because it's a wild thing to see and, like, I never thought I could do it, but yeah, I'm so happy because it really did like, naturally kind of changed my life. Like, I wasn't it just like, I slowly just stopped, partying, and
Mhm.
I still go out here and there, and I enjoy going out with friends, like, close friends and whatnot, but it definitely, I would say, like, saved my life in a way.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I want to ask you more about accountability and like what you've learned through the program or through the coursework about accountability. And even I feel like being a life coach, we're working with like the most delicate aspects of some people's lives. So like that definitely puts more responsibility on us.
Yeah.
How have you experienced or how have you seen your accountability change?
Yeah, that's a great question. I remember when I first started the program, I was very torn about like, oh my gosh, I have to completely change who I am. I can't be this fun party Nicole anymore. Like I have to completely switch that off. I can't go out. I can't do that. And then it
Yeah.
was like I was talking to someone about these, relationship patterns that I had with toxic men, and it was also like the person had said to me, like, "Nichole, how do you expect to help people and coach people and guide them on these things when you're not changing them for yourself?" And that right there was like such an eye-opening moment for me where I'm like, I have to hold myself accountable. I have to
Mm.
like stop with my own toxic patterns if I want to be able to help someone and guide them. And it's like like I can't expect anyone to commit to a coaching relationship with me if I'm not, doing this for myself. And so
Mhm.
I think that that really like that was such a huge moment for me where I was like, it's not that I can't be the fun Nichole anymore. It's just that I need to get my priorities straight. I need to sit down and determine like what is important to me right now. Is it partying or is it, getting my life together and doing this amazing thing that I've always wanted to do, for myself and for
Yeah.
others. So yeah, that's really helped me stay accountable.
And it's like redefining fun because there's so
Yeah,
many ways to have fun.
totally. Yeah, it's like there's so many things. I was just telling my coworker today when we went on our hike, I was like, it's so nice waking up and not being hungover on the weekends and like actually getting so much out of my weekend. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's been really good.
What can you say about that, like the transition from party fun Nicole to you're still fun Nicole, but maybe less party, more accountability, more, I guess the self work. What do I want to say? More like self awareness.
Yeah.
What would you say for
Um,
someone who's still in that kind of party state and is maybe resisting self awareness or like not wanting to get that feedback?
yeah, I think that I would say like it's not going anywhere, Like none of that stuff is gonna disappear. It's, you can still have fun and go out and do it in, a more like controlled way where it's not, going out
Mhm.
on a bender every weekend. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But if like you're looking to get out of it, but you feel that resistance, there's
Mhm.
so much more to look forward to than just, you know, drinking every night or doing drugs and being out all the time.
Mhm.
Like it's allowed me to like I feel more like I'm in like my soft era. Like I feel like
Love that.
I yeah, like, it's crazy. I feel so in tune with my emotions and, like, my intuition has grown so much stronger. It's really crazy the amount of, like, things that the universe has, like, sent my way in the last few months, and
Mhm.
I'm just noticing so many more patterns and so many more signs everywhere, and it's just I guess I would just say, like, there's so much more out there that is yet to be discovered if you just allow yourself to, like, dive into it and really go full force into, like, learning about yourself and healing and working on, like, becoming your, like, most authentic self.
Yes. I love that, and like you said, the party's always gonna be there. Like, it is
Yeah,
always going to be there, but at the same time, the universe is always there too. It's always
yeah.
giving us signs, but it just depends on what frequency we're tapped into on if we're picking
Mhm.
up on it or not.
Exactly, exactly. It's so true. It's like you give what you put out, the universe is gonna the signs have always been there, I think. I think it's just if
Mhm.
you're attuned to it or not, you know?
Yeah. And you said you grew up going to church. Has that like changed or affected your spiritual life or like how you see things? Did you
Yeah.
did you yeah, go through any reckoning, religious reckoning before you kind of reach this new plane of self?
You know what? I think I still struggle. I do struggle with like religious trauma, I would say. Um I I would say I'm very spiritual. I do believe in the universe. I believe in, my guides are always with me. I believe in angels. I
Mhm.
believe in all of that. Um I believe that there is a God. I think
Mhm.
that I'm very, very accepting of other people's religions, and I
Mhm.
think that it's important to just be open-minded. Um, but I did grow up in a Christian church and a Christian school, and that was pretty hard for me. And I think that I still have some stuff to work on with that. Because I don't relate any like I won't ever like say, okay, yeah, like I'm Christian or anything like that because
Mhm.
I just don't feel that. I do, believe that there is a higher power.
Mhm.
So it's been interesting, and I don't really know. There was a time in my life where I would say from college up until maybe like a few years ago is when I just had no like I felt like there was nothing out there. Like I just was like,
Mhm.
I so far from the church. I don't want anything to do with it. And then it started changing when I started healing and doing the work on myself and,
Mhm.
believing in like the spiritual realm. So that has
Yeah.
really helped me grow as well.
And you mentioned astrology too. Like, do you use astrology and kind of spirituality to learn more about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I I actually think it's so fascinating and I know that there's like jokes out there about it, but I think it's
I'm
so
totally into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I genuinely like there's so much truth in it and so much like behind it and like who's to say it's not true, you know? Who's to say that
Right.
your religion's true or not true? Like I just think it's so fascinating and astrology has really like it's really helped me in my spiritual growth as well. Like I would put the two together and that's really like helped me grow and become more aware of just who I am as a person.
Right. It is like self-awareness 101. It's if
Yeah.
you aren't able to take the steps or like don't even know where to start, learn about your sun, moon, and rising and kind of like what those traits are and say it's like, "Oh yeah, I relate to that. I can see that."
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
It
curious to hear more about your reading if you want to share because I've never had a professional one done. I just have used the apps.
yeah, so my reading, it was a 90-minute reading and it was, it was a lot. I don't remember fully everything, but I do remember some things. And
Mhm.
he first talked about so I'm an Aquarius and I'm a rising Gemini and I'm a Pisces moon.
Mhm.
And so it's very complex. um he, told me a lot about my identity. He was like, you don't know who you are. You try to put yourself into these different boxes that society wants you to be. And he's like, I think that this next chapter of your life will really be focused on your career and your identity. He went
Mm.
into kind of talking about how, the relationship aspect of my life and how I tend
Mhm.
to gravitate towards um, toxic or more manipulative men.
Mhm.
Because, it's similar to the way that I grew up, and so it's familiar to me, and I cling on to that, a little bit more, and I choose partners who, aren't necessarily great for me, and all of
Mhm.
it, was all of it landed, and he even knew, like, down to, the trauma that I've encountered, he was able to pretty much tell me all the different traumas I've encountered and knew which parent I had the most trauma with, and that being my dad and my sister, having more issues with my mom. And um, he, this was a really cool part. He was, before I'd even told him that I had signed up for this program, he was like, you have a lot of Pisces in your chart. You are a natural, like, empath, and you
Mm.
are a natural born healer. He was like, you are called to heal people in this world, Nichole. And he was like, it would be like, I don't mean this in a rude way, but he's like, "It would be a disservice of you to not go out and help people and heal people." But
Mhm.
he was like, "But in doing so, you are going to have to share your story with the world and with people." And
Mm.
that was just such a moment of like, "Oh, damn." Like, I'm, being vulnerable is so hard for me, and talking about the things that I've gone through is so difficult. But I knew when he said that, I was like, I have to start putting myself out there because there are people out there who probably are going through similar things and need someone who understands. And so
Yeah.
overall it was such a great reading. It was really, really cool and definitely recommend people to get readings.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear that like he speaks to your relationships, like past relationships and stuff too, because if that is written in the stars,
Yeah.
then it makes me feel like, yeah, everything is a bit predestined. There is kind of like
Huh.
a timeline that already exists, and we are
Mhm.
just experiencing it in real time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you
It's
think that means that you can change your outcomes? Or do you think like all of the things that you do to change yourself and learn about yourself is a part of it, are like already a part of the predestined path?
I almost think that, like, it is a part of it in a sense because he did go in and explain, like, you are gonna have, like, a lot of hardships and
Mhm.
but, like, in your life, like, it was, like, in one of my, like, my planets and my houses, I don't know what exactly he said, but he was like, yeah, like, he's like, "The last 4 years of your life have been absolutely traumatic," and I was like, "How did you know that?" You know? And
Yeah.
I do think that it's all part of it, right? Like, I think that if I didn't go through some of the things I've went through, I wouldn't know the things I know now. Like, I
Mhm.
wouldn't have wanted to change who I was as a person, right? Like, I feel like we experience pain and suffering for a reason, and it's to give us wisdom and to be able to share what we've gone through and help other people. And I think that it's part of it. I mean, I think that you probably can change certain things, like, if
Mhm.
someone, says in their chart, like, they're gonna be alone forever, like, I don't know if it actually would say that, but I'm pretty sure, like, if you didn't want to, like, you could work really hard to,
Yeah.
find a partner, but I do think it's all kind of predestined in a sense, but what you make of it is, is what is, like, true of the outcome, you know?
Yeah. I love the idea of that, like, if you're suffering, just know it's a part of the story.
Yeah.
Like, don't have to,
Yeah,
like, it's not the end of the world. This is just a
yeah.
part of the story. You're gonna get through this.
Yeah, and, like, that is huge for me. I think I used to play victim a lot, but once I got out of that victim mindset, I every time something, quote, unquote, like, "bad" happens to me, I instead of victimizing myself, instead of feeling sorry for myself, of course, I allow myself to feel the pain, but I remind myself that I'm strong and I was okay at one point before all of this, and I'm gonna be okay
Mhm.
again. This isn't
Yeah.
this isn't the rest of my future, you know?
How do you accept the anger?
Yeah, that's hard because obviously anger is an intense emotion, and so I think that
Mhm.
I allow myself to get angry. I don't try to, like, push that aside. I allow myself to get angry, but then I have to check myself and be like, "Okay, there's clearly other emotions that are behind this anger." And
Mhm.
usually with some reflection, I'm able to figure out that it's not anger, it's hurt, it's betrayal,
Yes.
it's sadness, it's all these other things that are coming up. And to feel the emotion is, like, so important for
Mhm.
the healing process. You can't just, be like, "Oh, I can't ever be angry." Like, no, that's not human of us, you know?
Right.
Uh, and yeah, I was such an angry child, and I look back and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, that's so crazy," but I was a broken child, right? Like, I was hurting.
Mhm.
Um, so I think I just tell myself, like, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to get angry, but with that, you have to learn to sit and be present and reflect on what is happening underneath all of that.
Right. And not externalizing the angry, but really understanding internally where it's coming from to
Yeah,
release it.
yeah,
Oh, that's a hard one. Even I am someone who was like toxic positivity. I learned that this year. Like, just
yeah,
try to stay optimistic through the worst things. And like that just suppresses the angry emotions and it's going to come out in the worst ways. And so,
yeah,
like, one of my coaches that I had through the program was like, you need he was like, an angry thoughts journal and like allow yourself to like say all the angry things that you're thinking. You don't have to tell anybody, you don't have to confront anyone, but just get it out of your body and out of your
yeah,
mind.
yeah, that's, like, amazing. That's such a cool tool to have because we end up suppressing it, and then it's just inside of us, and it comes out in
Yeah.
horrible ways sometimes. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, final words of wisdom of what you've learned on your journey so far.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, to just keep going, keep pushing yourself, and stay true to who you actually are. Like, check in with yourself. Like, it's
Hmm.
about you. You're the only you on this planet, right? So make sure you're checking in with yourself every day and honoring the inner child within you.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. And what do you hope for yourself going forward?
I think I'm just at this point now where I just want to be able to connect with people from all over and be able to help people who are suffering or who are, in pain and just need someone to know that they're there for them, because I know that that's what I would have wanted
Hmm.
through all of the stuff I've been through and still go through. Yeah, I want to see more growth in my life. I want to be able to speak to more people about the things that I've gone through and be able to just be a support system for people in need.
Yeah, I love that. It's like we become the person through healing. We become the person our inner child needed.
Yeah, and it's so special. It's truly something so beautiful, and, like, it's crazy you say that because, like, I saw a TikTok about that, um, and it really is, like, we end up, because at the end of the day, all we have is ourselves, truly, and so you wanna
Hmm.
be your biggest fan. You wanna be the person that, like, that is there to support you. So, yeah, it's a really
Yeah.
special thing.
What do you think your child self would say about you or say to you now?
Yeah, I think little Nicole would say that she's proud of me and that she's resilient and so special and a badass.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Nicole. This is a great talk, a great conversation. I feel
Thank you
like
so much.
I'm putting a Q&A on
Mhm,
the podcast episodes, and so if there are Q&As that come back,
mhm.
um we might like revisit the conversation
Okay,
and like talk again. I think your episode will probably be coming out late February, early March.
okay,
So it'll be a couple
cool.
months, but I'll definitely be in touch and I'll share links with you when once it's out. And I'll ask for like a headshot, and
Okay,
you can have until the week before, and so I'll reach out
okay,
again for all this. But a headshot for the episode icon as well.
okay. That's awesome. That's so
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I was so, like, this was such a cool thing to be a part of and really excited for you and your journey with this.
Thank you. We will see where it goes.
Yes, you got this, girl.
Thanks. All right. Have a good it's evening for you. Thank you for joining us today. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and join us in our next conversation where we'll be exploring the extraordinary lives of ordinary people. I'm Courtney Lofton, and this is Ordinary Eccentrics.